But we got to remember, hey, we don't walk by sight, but you're walking by faith,
believing that he will do what he says he will do.
even when you don't see it by sight.
In order to enter the kingdom of heaven, and I was like, whoa, as adults, we don't do that.
But before we go into that, our names is RJ and Calvin, and on this channel, we make the Bible relevant and practical in your everyday life. And a huge majority that tunes in on this channel, unfortunately, are not subscribed. Now let's go back to this topic.
So there's a verse in the Bible that tells us to walk by faith and not by sight. What in the world does that mean? And how do we practically do that?
So, there's this thing called like earthly reality, and there's kind of like a eternal reality, right? There's also a verse where Jesus says, set your affections on things above and not on things on this earth. And sometimes we look at things just from it is, but we forget to think like, hold on, man, God knows the end from the beginning. Right? He knows the end from the beginning. And what we need to do is walk by faith in trusting in him that he knows the end from the beginning, regardless of what's happening in our lives. I mean, we have people that, families that we lost, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes from earthly perspective, it's like, man, that hurts. Why is this happening? But we got to remember, hey, we don't walk by sight. That's the sight that you see, but you're walking by faith. God knows the end from the beginning. He knows why. All things, Romans 8:28, all things work together for good. Even, whatever, trials that you're going through, God says that's working out for your good. So for me, that's how I would say, like, hey, to walk by faith. Like, even though it's hard to see it, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, I got to trust and believe in God that he knows what's happening even before that I can do it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. One of the things that comes to my mind is, what does it mean to have faith? Or what does it even mean to walk by faith?
Right.
And what comes to my mind is Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, which says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
In other words, to break that down in a much more simple way, it's going to be something that's like this. Faith is me taking God at his word.
That's right.
Believing that he will do what he says he will do.
Even when you don't see it by sight.
Even when you don't visibly see it. Yeah. So it's taking those promises. So how do we walk by faith and not by sight? Is by believing that God will do what he says he will do.
Right.
And not only believing it, but depending on it to take place.
And acting like it's already going to happen. Living like it's already going to happen, right?
Yeah.
That's literally walking by faith.
Yeah.
And not by sight.
One of the things that really stood out to me in this situation is I was, at the end of the year, last year, I was studying what does it mean to have faith like a child. That's what the Bible says.
Right.
Have faith like a child. It says that in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be like a child. So I started studying that out. I was like, man, what does this mean?
Right.
And I noticed in studying that, when I was with babies and little kids, I would just kind of pay attention to what they would do. And I noticed that whenever a baby got frustrated, here's how the baby would act. It would get mad, or let's say the baby got scared, right? What they would do when they were scared is that immediately, whoever the parent was, they'd look for them. Turn to the parent and cling to the parent. And I was like, whoa, as adults, we don't do that.
We go straight to him, like a flower turning to the sun.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
saying?
saying?
What do we do as adults? What we do, we try to figure it out ourselves first.
Yep.
But what did the Bible tell us?
Right.
The Bible already told us that God is going to try to help us figure that out.
That's right.
God is going to take care of that for us. So why are we continually trying to figure out things ourselves instead of actually taking that to God?
That's right.
Right? So walk by faith truly means to believe that God will do what he says and not just believe. Remember, we talked about this before. Belief is not just a word to say, it's an action word.
That's right.
So I truly think that you are actually going to do that.
That's right. That's right.
So walk by faith, not by sight, by truly believing in what God says he will do, and not just believing, depending on that word.
That's right.
Which is an action word.
Yeah, and in God, he doesn't tell us to walk by faith blindly. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
He
always gives us evidence.
Exactly. Ebenezer's like things that happened to us prior, before. It's like we tend to forget, what God has done for us. So walking by faith also means remembering what God has done to you in the past.
Yep.
Be like, hey, I got faith that God will get me through this because he got me through it before. You know what I'm saying?
That makes me think about the Israelites when they were leaving Egypt.
Yeah.
How why did they want to go back to Egypt? If you actually go look, almost every time, at least every time that I've seen that they wanted to go back to Egypt, you know what they said? Oh, our fathers back in the past didn't do this to us. Oh, this in the past didn't do that to us.
Right.
They dwelt on the past. That's how Satan gets you. Is that he gets us by making us think about our past. And so we would always think about that instead of turning to God.
That's right.
And having God help us.
Mercy.
Yeah. So walk by faith,
Yes.
not by sight.
Yes. So
In action.
exactly. So if you guys, have any stories where you have walked by faith and not by sight, if you guys have any other ideas and what that looks like practically, comment on the link below. We would in the comment section below. Like, we would love to hear your thoughts.
Yep.
And then like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you can see more episodes. Yes.
Until then,
Yes.
we'll see you. Peace.